From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the Primetime Bulletin here on Joy News. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. In this bulletin, President Mahama promises to restructure GYEEDA to be more efficient as 5-member committee confirms massive rot uncovered by Joy FM investigations. New Patriotic Party takes on government over its decision to impose a tax on condoms, describing the move as the most unfortunate decision ever taken. All Die mantra sparks debate in Parliament today. And Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority warns that tax defaulters will not enjoy any amnesty after September this year. Secondhand tire dealers appeal to government to reconsider ban which comes into force in September. We have all these and many more, including sports, business and showbiz coming up. President Mahama has announced there will be a radical review and restructure of the Ghana Youth Entrepreneurial Development Authority. This was after a 5-member committee set up to investigate alleged misappropriation and corrupt deals, and that the program submitted its findings. The committee's report revealed the absence of basic institutional frameworks that could have helped prevent the malfeasance. The committee was set up following a Joy News expose of rot at GYEEDA, formerly the NYEP.
The committee was led to the presidency by the Youth and Sports Minister, Elvis Afriye Ankra.
Excellency, a couple of months ago, following public outcry about some impropriety and irregularities at GYEEDA, you authorized an impact assessment and review of the activities of GYEEDA. Essentially, they looked at the institutional weaknesses and made recommendations as to how to deal with them.
Chairman of the committee, Ferdinand Gunn, a chartered accountant, highlighted the committee's findings.
We have categorized broadly our findings into 4. 1, absence of an appropriate legal, institutional and regulatory framework to guide the operations of GYEEDA. Breakdown of governance and operational structures, inadequate financial oversight and monitoring mechanisms, and 4, shift in focus from the ultimate beneficiaries to other stakeholders. In spite of these challenges, the committee is convinced that the concept and objective of GYEEDA remain relevant. Therefore, we have appropriate recommendations for your considerations.
He explained how the committee went about its work.
Methodology used included purposive sampling. This was conducted to select key stakeholders such as the past 5 ministers for youth and sports and the Auditor General, whose expert knowledge and opinion on the program was sought. In addition to that, a stratified random sampling was conducted to select beneficiaries of models to be interviewed as part of the assessment. A simple random sampling of other beneficiaries from existing contact database provided was done to complement the data collected. We visited all the 10 regions of Ghana and covered 50 districts. A minimum of 520 beneficiaries were interviewed.
President Mahama assured the recommendations will be implemented with the aim of making GYEEDA more accountable, modernized and efficient.
The terms of reference were quite clear, and as a result of that, this report has been presented to us today. Government will go into the report and especially study your recommendations carefully, and it is our intention to review and restructure GYEEDA radically based on the report that you have presented. And so we're going to look at it and to study the report, and in the next few days, weeks, begin to implement those recommendations in a very fair manner.
He maintained The objectives of GYEEDA, which is to equip young people with skills and jobs through private partnerships, will be upheld, but government will ensure this is done within a framework of efficient use of national resources. For Joy News, Gifty Ando-Apia, Flagstaff House.
All right, so one of the details that were lost in this presentation were the details as contained in the recommendations. Manasseh Azuria-Winnie is GJA Journalist of the Year, and he joins me in the studio. Now, he is largely credited with the Joy News investigations that uncovered the rot. And so let's go quickly to Manasseh. Now, good evening to you. Now, give us a brief background to this investigation.
Well, Gifty, this investigation started, I think, early this year, January. But what actually prompted this investigation date back to around 2011, when some officials of GYEEDA actually connived to withdraw or embezzle money meant for beneficiaries from certain rural banks in the Ashanti region. And so what actually happened was that a committee was set up by the then National Coordinator, Honorable Buga Pele. And this committee came out with its recommendations, and some officials were interdicted. A National Security Committee was again set up to actually do a thorough investigation and recommend prosecution. And as we speak, the National Committee submitted its report on the 7th of June last year, that's 2012. But they did the investigation and submitted a report to the big men at the National Security. But as we speak, that report never came out. And that was one of the reports I got when I was doing my investigation. And so what happened was that another committee was set up by the ministry, and it actually brought the people back from interdiction. And so this particular committee is the fourth committee on this GYEEDA rot. And this committee, I can say, was set up following Joy FM's investigation into the malfeasance and other activities, such as some questionable contracts within GYEEDA.
That's a lot of hands moving up and down. But quickly, we do not know, as the story has been told, we do not know some of the recommendations because it wasn't revealed there. But I'm sure that having followed the story, you will have some insight. Tell us, what are some of the recommendations as far as you know?
Well, Gifty, I must say the committee has done a very comprehensive job. And what I do know from very credible sources is that, one, some of the contracts or some of the modules under GYEEDA are going to be cancelled because our investigations reveal that some of them had questions. So some of them will be cancelled. Some monies will be refunded to the government, or some monies from the service providers, or some of these agencies who partner with GYEEDA to run these models. They are to refund certain monies. And I can also say some people will be cited, are likely to be cited for prosecution because they had hands in some of the activities that did not go on well within GYEEDA. So these are some of the issues we should be expecting in the coming days. You know, the president promised that in the next few days or weeks we should see action, and I'm very sure if the recommendations are going to be implemented from the sources within, something will be done.
Will be done. Well, quickly before we let you go, you know, these are some of the fulfillments that comes with a job. After you've done it and there's result, it makes you feel very happy. Now, you tell me how you feel about this whole thing, having instigated this investigation.
Well, I think it's a national cause, and when you start something like this, there are lots of rumors, people saying he's pushed by this, he's sponsored by this, but at the end of the day, I feel somewhat vindicated that those who came out to say a whole lot of things, the committee has even found things that are worse than what we uncovered. And it will be gratifying. Yeah, it will be gratifying to know that when these recommendations are implemented, I'm sure every month the nation will save millions of Ghana cedis from leaking into certain hands that were not meant for this particular monies.
Right, and people will think twice if they have to take any such action. Thank you very much to you. Manasseh Azuria-Winnie is the GJA Journalist of the Year, and he actually started this investigation. Now, moving on, in a related development, the New Patriotic Party has raised issues with monies said to have been paid to a consultant to facilitate World Bank funding for GYEEDA. They describe it as yet another example of dissipation of taxpayers' monies. The NPP in the statement refers to a Daily Graphic report saying it contradicts claims by GYEEDA officials that the World Bank has granted them $65 million, indicating that the bank was only now, July 2013, considering any form of support, if at all. The The statement, signed by Deputy Communications Director of the NPP, Perry Okujeto, says the party finds it most terrifying that GYEEDA doled out 4.6 million Ghana cedis to facilitate the support, even though the World Bank has stated that it only deals with prospective beneficiaries directly and does not engage consultants or facilitators. Now, it says this is another example of the wanton and reckless dissipation of taxpayers' monies by government, which has led us into the current severe economic crisis, resulting in the imposition of new taxes on shrinking businesses and the already overburdened taxpayer. It asks that the money GYEEDA paid to the so-called consultant could have built over 400 boreholes for villages whose water systems have been destroyed by galamsey. And then it concludes by saying that Ghanaians certainly deserve better than this very bad governance. And that is a statement released by the NPP. Now, moving on, the Coalition of Youth Associations in Northern Ghana is demanding the immediate removal of the Chief Executive Officer of the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, SADA, Alhaji Gilbert Idi, at a news conference in the Upper East Regional Capital, Bolgatanga, on Tuesday. So the coalition accused the SADA boss of wasteful spending of the authority's funds. Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sori reports.
The coalition is made up of members of various youth groups from the Northern, Upper East and Upper West regions. Basharu Al-Hassan Dabali, a spokesperson for the Coalition of Youth Associations in Northern Ghana.
We are severely hurt that with the current happenings in SADA, the stage is set for SADA to join the long list of failed development programs such as URADEB, NORIP, etc. that has been witnessed in the past. If nothing urgently is done to salvage the situation.
The group also accused Alhaji Gilbert Idi of blatant disregard for basic rules in doing business and waste of public resources.
From our sources and documents in our hands, the CEO spent a whopping 170,000 between January and March 2013 on internet connectivity, when indeed SADA staff as at March 2013 had no computers to work with.
The youth group also made this demand of the president.
We demand that Alhaji Gilbert Idi be immediately removed as CEO of SADA without further delays.
They have given the president a 2-week ultimatum to respond to their demands, or they will proceed on a series of massive demonstrations.
The New Patriotic Party has launched a fresh attack on the Mahama administration, describing it as unproductive, lacking foresight and insensitive to the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian. Minority leader Oseiche Mensah Bonsu also described government's decision to impose tax on condoms as the most unfortunate decision ever taken by a government. Etonam Say has the rest of the story.
The New Patriotic Party was reacting to government's recent decision to increase taxes across the board in order to revive the economy.
The breweries are huge enterprises in Ghana. Now they have to import even water from La Côte d'Ivoire. And let's not forget, just over 5-6 years ago, water in La Côte d'Ivoire was far more expensive than in Ghana. When government came in with this tax on handsets, they were told Samsung wanted to locate in Ghana, in the sub-region, and use Ghana as a hub. And now there's inertia on their part. That is what we'll be looking at. As a country, we are losing our competitiveness, and if we're not careful, we will cascade further downwards, and it will not be good for the creation of jobs in the country.
Government is hoping to raise 88 million Ghana cedis from the stabilization levy by imposing a 5% tax on profits of institutions such as banks and other financial institutions, mining firms and telecommunication companies. The levy is, however, expected to be in place for 18 months. The Custom and Excise Bill, on the other hand, is expected to impose a 20% tax on mobile phone handsets imported into the country, with the hope of raising some 49.8 million Ghana cedis to protect local manufacturers of mobile phone handsets. Among other things, government is also tasking condoms. Thus, the MPP claim is too much burden for Ghanaians to carry.
I wonder why, for instance, a Minister for Finance can come to the ministry to Parliament to impose taxes on condoms, when we are at the same time trying to say that we are trying to reduce the effect of these transmissions of, why he will come in here and say that he wants to increase the price on chalawati, which is for the poor. Why will he come in to say that he's going to impose taxes on things that really affect the poor? It's mind-boggling.
The MPP also said the Mahama-led administration has no clue on how to man the country and warned that the country is heading for doom. It indicated that the financial standing of the country is in a sorry state, but could not give statistics to back their claims.
Let me be very candid with you that this country has never had very reliable figures on unemployment. In fact, they use proxies that maybe the Daily Graphic advertised for more workers in June than in July, so maybe employment level is going up. That is how we used to do it, with the proxy. But as to whether there is a real statistics on unemployment in this country, we don't have that.
It described the taxation system as unreasonable and unmeasured, tailored towards inflicting pain on the ordinary Ghanaian.
So members of the public have been reacting to the tax on condoms and its likely impact on the fight against HIV and AIDS.
Me like this, I'm a self-employment. I do my own business, and imagine going there and buying something today and tomorrow they'll tell me they have increased it. It affects me a lot.
It goes a long way to affect us, because once there's increase in all these things, it affects fuel, food, transport, everything, and it makes cost of living very high.
My problem is that only few of Ghanaians are the ones paying all the big taxes. If it's going to be done, then it should cut across. Everybody has to, pay some of the taxes.
How can you put tax on condom? Condom that, do you know what condoms help? Condoms is something that, those who don't even have money can get it for free.
For me, I think it's really ridiculous. We should look at other areas where we can tax, because I don't see why you should tax condoms.
We are trying so hard in involving people to use condom, because the HIV is becoming higher and higher. So if we tax the condoms and all those things, it means that people are going to refrain from using the condoms. And if it happens like that, then it's not good for.
We remain with sexual, reproductive and health NGO Marie Stopes is also unhappy about the move, especially its implications on the fight against HIV and AIDS. Country Director Faustina Fin-Nyame described the development as worrying.
Well, I think it's quite unfortunate that the government, if they do decide to actually impose these taxes on condoms, clinics like ourselves, we give out condoms freely to clients, and depending on how much the tax is, are we going to have to start charging clients for these condoms? And these condoms are for vulnerable people. These are for, girls who are not necessarily able to afford condoms, or teenage boys who can't afford condoms. And we're a nation that wants people to have healthy sexual practices. And this will be another barrier for people to access condoms and to practice safe sex. This worries me greatly, and it worries me for teenagers and vulnerable people and people who just can't afford condoms.
And Madam Fenyame was speaking on today's big story with Bright Nana Anfo. And in a related development, the National Women's Organizer of the National Democratic Congress has justified slapping taxes on condoms. Speaking on the big story, Anita De Sozo explained the taxes will discourage infidelity.
First of all, we need to know what tax is all about.
Right.
It is a levy that is compulsory, placed on us by law in order to raise revenue for public services. And every government is entitled to raise enough money in order to have infrastructure in the system. But if you watch carefully, our expenditure is more than the revenue that we are getting in this country. And we also know that with tax, some taxes are imposed just to restrict people in patronizing certain items like alcohol, tobacco. So on Monday, I was on a program when I said that I do agree with the government if they impose more taxes on condoms. My dear brother, we need to bring sanity into the system. If you have a partner, you need to stay with your partner.
Right.
That's why I said they should impose more taxes on condoms.
So a lot of interesting views there about the condoms. But on that note, we take a very quick break. We'll return and then we'll go straight to Parliament. You're welcome back. A statement read on the floor of Parliament today on the high rent charged by landlords became the subject of a heated debate amongst the two sides of the House. This was after a submission by one of the MPs was sharply rebutted by his colleague with "or die be die." It took the intervention of the Speaker to calm tensions and restore order.
The statement by the MP for the Wa East constituency, Salifu Amin, sought to highlight the plight of tenants who are made to pay huge sums of money as rent advance to secure accommodation.
It is my contention that this housing project is properly planned and executed would generate numerous deficit and indirect jobs. Let me conclude this statement by stressing on the need for all stakeholders to join forces in a concerted effort to tackle the housing deficit of the country by making every effort to complete all housing projects on the drawing board.
He urged government to adopt a national housing policy, which he says has been at the draft stage for the past 7 years, in order to reduce the housing deficit. And Sawam Aduajiri MP Frank Anodompre, in his contribution to the statement, however, lay blame at the doorstep of the NDC administration.
I want to quickly suggest to the present government that we have affordable housing projects which is left in the bush, abandoned completely. I can only appeal that government will have to revert its mind to the housing deficit problem that is confronting this country.
Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Murtala Mohammed was, however, not amused by his colleague's submission and sought to defend the NDC's record.
Responsibility as an honourable member to support the statement, but if he is provoking debate, then it will degenerate, and I don't think that it argues well for sanity to prevail. Order all die be die. For sanity to prevail in this house. Order all die be die. Hey. Sit down, sit down.
This further outraged members of the minority, leading to exchanges.
Mr. Speaker, you were unambiguous, and when we made a request, it was without any equivocation that our colleague should withdraw. Now he prefers to go on the path of conditionality. That will be unacceptable to the House.
A free advice for my colleague.
Please. Order, honourable member. Honourable member, it is order. Please.
The honourable member mentioned specifically that as a country we are facing housing deficit. It's only fair for me to say the previous project that were started, the government reverted its minds and continue with those projects. If I said this, I'm not out of order. It's important to recognize this. Mr. Speaker,
honourable member, you are making the work very difficult for me. I've told you, honourable member, I've told you to concentrate on the way forward and avoid anything that will generate
unnecessary debates.
First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Obom-Konto, had to intervene to bring order to the floor.
That was Parliament today. Let's go to the Presidency. A meeting between President Mahama and his Economic Management Committee is said to have deliberated on ways of reducing government expenditure and further tightening revenue mobilization loopholes. Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Murtala Mohammed, in today's briefing at the Flagstaff House, would however not disclose further details on the meeting. Today's briefing also bordered around another meeting with the African Development Bank.
The economic management team, indeed, they met yesterday. They discussed two issues. One, the recommendations that the economic management team made with regards to revamping the economy. There were other recommendations in terms of reducing expenditure. And I think that His Excellency the President was pleased with the success story that we have gotten as a result of the measures put in place. Another issue that was discussed has to do with the Eurobond.
Outcomes of the President's meeting with the ADB and the Economic Management team yesterday have come up for discussion today. Details have not been given, but if what we're told is anything to go by, then very soon feeder roads targeted at farming communities are expected to be constructed across the nation. These roads are expected to link areas which are mostly unmotorable to major roads in cities and other big towns. The ultimate goal is to facilitate movement of market produce from such areas as well as boost economic activities.
The African Development Bank indeed has a long-standing relationship with this country. They have assisted to finance several projects border on health, education and infrastructure. Yesterday's discussion was to a very large extent on roads. His Excellency the President did make some proposals, and our expectations are that the proposals will be considered. And the proposals were about expanding the facilities that they have given this nation over the years, such that we could have some roads constructed in at least every district.
As a proposal, no clear timelines were given, but Murtala Mohammed says a 3-year period was proposed by the President. A report on the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority is said to have been also submitted to the President today. Gifty Andopia, Joy News, Flagstaff House.
President John Dramani Mahama has left Accra today for Abuja, Nigeria, to attend the 43rd Ordinary Session of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government. The session will consider a number of issues, chief among which are the 2013 interim report of the President of the ECOWAS Commission and reports on the situation in Mali. The 2-day session, which ends on Thursday, July 18, will also review the situation in Guinea-Bissau and the status of the ECOWAS security mission in that country. President John Mahama will return home on Friday, July 19, and in his absence, Vice President Kwesi Bekoe Emisa Arthur will act in accordance with Article 60, Clause 8 of the 1992 Constitution, and this was contained in a statement released from the Presidency. It's been a little over a week since hundreds of residents at Obom-Konto in the Gas South District were deprived of shelter following a demolition of their homes by a team of police personnel. The exercise was said to be in response to a court order. Emmanuel Ante has visited the affected residents in their makeshift structures to find out how they are coping.
The displaced Obom-Konto residents occupy the land through a mutual agreement with the landowner. Like most peri-urban dwellers, they are engaged in farming, specifically the cultivation of teak trees for the landowner. But according to them, a decision to connect the national electricity grid cost them their place of abode. They say the landowner caused their eviction out of fear that he might lose the land.
The land, it belongs to Ataja. And according to my grandparents, they said they were there before they leased the land for McCarthy. So McCarthy brought a thick tree, we plant it, we weed inside, we do everything for him. We even employ us as labor, we work for him, he pay us. But I don't know the reason why he's sacking us without giving us a particular place to settle our things before demolition took place in our community. We are suffering.
If you are somebody's land, if you want to sack the person, you have to know the person, you have to inform the person that today, tomorrow, you have to move. If the person don't move, we can have authority to do something. With that information, they have been blocking our village about 80 years about. And then our ladies, and we have a brown women in our village. And then the brown woman coming to sleeping on the veranda without knowing in our situations.
This school has, over the past week, served as a place of solace for the displaced residents. But even that no longer holds. And for these older residents, keeping their grandchildren fed and educated is now their main source of worry.
Namanya sikamato afya bojo yakwa katakata ugbonyo ko mududu kama kona de jodun yamakpe gai makpo akona de jodun yamakpe yusi akwagba memela megara akwagba ma abe akpa makpe abe adawuna sukujo odu asimagbo asabamlu suku kwamafia tetusia amama nomia yakwa kwagba ogbakore nyamoja asio nyagala ngom nyagawa agbako chucho vato onwa gakpo.
Yao, a mother of 3, appears lost in her thoughts. With their home gone, she can only afford to keep one out of her 3 children in school because there is no money and she cannot go to farm as she used to do. With the school authorities having kicked the displaced residents out, I wondered where next they might find shelter. I, however, did not have to look further. As I gathered, this church had offered them temporary shelter. At the time of my visit, some of the residents had gone back to the site of their demolished structures to salvage whatever they could from the ruins. How they start preparing their food, they are left with only roasting cassava dough. And as you can see, the smoke is killing me. You can just imagine what they go through every day just to get something to eat. Without the luxury of an enclosed bathhouse, this girl takes her bath in the open as she gets ready for school. The church premises, it appears, may not hold these displaced persons for long as they had to move out again because the church was about to hold a program. For now, that is how the people of Obom-Konto live. This is where they have been sleeping ever since they were sacked from the school. A church where there is no protection and they are left at the mercies of animals at night. From Obom-Konto, this is Emmanuel Ante reporting.
All right, now let's tell you about what's happening on our Facebook wall. Our hot issue today is still on condoms. The National Women's Organizer of the NDC has justified slapping taxes on the latex, explaining the tax would discourage infidelity. So we asked you, our viewers, to share your thoughts with us. And these are some of the things that you have been saying. So Kwabla Amewuga Atibu says, okay, so no more use of condoms. Let's see if the land can contain the populace. How much is condom and how much will government generate from that? Insia Isaac says they should pay more attention to Wyoming's debt and forget about all these taxes. Baba Musa Tamale says, I personally do not see anything wrong with the decision by government to impose 1% import levy on condoms. After all, it is not the only product that is being taxed. And Sheikh Muniru Kodima says, hey, Nawar, why don't you just put the tax on alcohol and tobacco rather on condom and cutlasses? Ghana is becoming unbecoming. Very interesting thoughts there. But that's it for the thoughts, by way of the thoughts that you sent in. But when we come back from this break, we do business news.
Joy News Business is brought to you in a
Time now for some business. The British High Commissioner to Ghana, Peter Jones, is urging government to rope the private sector into its development agenda. Speaking at a ceremony to welcome a leading UK capacity development organisation, GTC, Peter Jones said rapid urbanisation across the continent means government must actively involve the private sector in its plans, since it is the best way to achieve a sustained economic growth.
Ghana's sustained political and economic performance, according to the World Bank and most international observers, reflects the positive effects of an improving environment for democratic governance and growth. Building capacity to sustain Ghana's new position and indeed to accelerate its growth and develop its status even more is one of the most important issues for organisations and for Ghana as a country overall in this position in its economic growth. Capacity building has become inseparable from national development strategies, to the point where it is safe to say that this is the essential building block for future growth.
Minister of State in charge of private sector development, Rashid Pelpo, underscored government's preparedness to engage the private sector in spearheading the country's developmental agenda.
We need to, first of all, recognize all stakeholders, critical stakeholders who can help in this direction. And critical amongst them is partners that can not just give us resources, material resources, but also partners that can help us build the capacity of government agencies, technocrats, individuals who are all linked to our development process.
Associate Director of Global Training Consulting, Paula Nicholson, said the institution will provide world-class training for Ghanaian private sector institutions to boost their capacity. GTC is a leading UK-based international capacity development organization that specializes in capacity building for the private sector.
Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, George Blankson, has cautioned tax defaulters to take advantage of the current tax amnesty or face penalties and interest on their outstanding taxes. In an exclusive interview with Joy News, he explained defaulters will not have any amnesty opportunity after September this year.
The Internal Revenue Tax Amnesty Act 2012, Act 853, passed by Parliament on October 30 last year, allows tax defaulters to voluntarily pay their outstanding taxes to the Ghana Revenue Authority without incurring penalties. The period of amnesty, which lasts for only 9 months, requires businesses which have never registered with the GRA but are to pay taxes on their incomes by law have the opportunity to register and pay those taxes without interest. Registered taxpayers who have also concealed some tax liabilities unknown to the GRA also have the leverage to pay up without penalties. For regular taxpayers, the amnesty does not appear beneficial, but the GRA says for them there are benefits of compliance, especially when the amnesty period ends in September.
If they had waited until the tax authorities, that is the Ghana Revenue Authority, went through their books and discovered their liabilities, such penalties and interest would have been payable. So long as they are paying regularly and declaring all their liabilities and are paying regularly, they will not have to pay penalties and interest on any outstanding tax. So the benefit of compliance is that you are spared interest payment and penalties.
Judge Blankson also allayed the fears of unregistered businesses that may be unwilling to voluntarily own up to their debts to keep their business records positive.
When such taxpayers come forward and declare that they will want to comply from this point on, of course, in terms of profiling, we will keep them under surveillance for some time to ensure that they are true converts to compliance with tax laws, genuine converts. Then, after some time, when we are sure that they are truly converted to payment of tax, they become like any other taxpayer. It's not negative at all. It's not negative. Any taxpayer that comes forward to make a declaration, such a point, admission of non-payment of tax, will not be used against the taxpayer.
The GRA is meanwhile encouraging the public to take advantage of the tax amnesty to regularize their tax affairs, as it will not give amnesty opportunity to defaulters after the September deadline.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Revenue Authority says current tax hikes are to widen the tax net in order to reduce the tax rate in the long term. He says the move is to plow in more revenue for government while taxing the informal sector, which has a very large untaxed population.
When you broaden the tax base, either in the sense of spreading the tax to cover a lot more goods and services, or to cover a lot more taxpayers, either way, you end up with the potential of being able to bring down even the tax rate to collect the same level of tax revenue as before, which opens the scope for a reduction in tax levels once you broaden the tax net. But when the tax net is narrow, you have to have a higher rate to achieve the same tax revenue. So broadening of tax net in the long term goes to benefit the society as a whole.
In about 2 months from now, dealers in second-hand tires may have to prospect for other business opportunities as their operations will be rendered illegal by law. The National Road Safety Commission will, from September this year, enforce the ban on the importation and sale of second-hand tires, which is said to be partly responsible for about 30% of road accidents. Dealers in the product are, however, pleading with government to take a second look at the directive.
Beginning September this year, the National Road Safety Commission says they will enforce the ban on the use of second-hand tires. Today, we are here at Abosokan to find out from second-hand dealers what they make of this particular directive.
The home use tires normally, is a good quality tires, because normally they do bring the brand new ones, which is from China, and that one is not doable to us because of our climate. It's not doable to us. Because when you fix the China one, within 3-4 months, it will warp off. But European ones, you can use like 8 months, even 1 year. It depends on the grade. And when you get to Europe, they do come from Asia and other Scandinavia and Yugoslavia. They do sell the used tires over there. So in Africa here, if you are selling it here, there is nothing wrong.
Remember, the first say second-hand tires, no. It be a quality chain, brand new ones, no. Because brand new ones, no, standard, no good. That's why I say we are second hand. But when you're second hand tire, the quality is very quality. A new one, be a standard quality no be be a standard no. Because we know a European tested tire almost use so. But any nine a waster almost to be the what me use to be. So when you tire, just say want to find car.
The Road Traffic Regulations 62 subsection 2 states that a person shall not fit a tire on a motor vehicle or a trailer if the tire is more than 4 years old, counting from the date of manufacture.
Well, basically what they're saying is that second-hand tires are of better quality than the brand new ones. And that's it for business, but market data is up next.
Business was brought.
Sports is brought to you in association with Right, time for the very latest in the world of sports. My name is George Adejuni. Now, head coach of South African sides Mamelodi Sundowns, Picho Mosimane, says Ghana internationals Mumini Abubakar and Emmanuel Bafo will earn more playing time when they completely adjust to the South African League. The two since signing for the South African Giants have been on the fringes of selection, but the head coach, who is in Ghana to supervise the team's pre-season training, is optimistic the duo would soon become regulars.
I found it's not only Emmanuel Bafo, I think maybe also on Mumuni. They were not featuring earlier with the previous coach, and I took over and tried to assess and see if they could get enough game time. Unfortunately with me also they couldn't get enough game time, but I must say that we have in Emmanuel Bafo and Mumuni we have good players. It is very important that we also understand that the type of football played in South Africa is totally different football comparatively to what we saw and what we know is happening in Ghana. The players need some time. Momoni is still young, 20-year-old. He needs time to adapt to the kind of football we play in South Africa. I believe that they're in good hands in South Africa. We're looking after them. They're not complaining of how we look at them. We look after them. They're really well looked after, and they can attest to that. But we need to give them a little bit of time and chance.
Still with football, and European clubs continue to engage in pre-season tours ahead of next season's busy schedule. Clubs including Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal amongst others are deep into trimming their rough edges ahead of the coming season. Latest to join the train are Spanish giants Real Madrid and Barcelona. That'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adejuni. I do have a great good evening.
Sports was brought to you in association with...
Let's do some showbiz right about now. And on arrival last night, both Miss World 2012, Wayne Xiaoyu, and chairman of the Miss World organization, Julia Morley, expressed their excitement to be in Ghana and said they were looking forward to lending massive support to the Miss Ghana Foundation's charity projects in northern Ghana, which includes construction of some 2 boreholes at the Nabuli and Leili witch camps.
The 8-member delegation from the Miss World organization who arrived in Accra last night to set off a week-long activity-driven working tour were met at the Kotoka International Airport by Miss Ghana 2012 and her team. The Miss World team will be in the northern region for 2 days, during which they will meet the regional minister, the Tamale chief, and also visit the Tamale Children's Home. Chairperson of the Miss World organization, Miss Morley, expresses her excitement about the project.
I'm so proud of what INA is doing and Miss Ghana organization that we should all get behind them, and it's a force for good. You know, I think that we should all make an effort together. So I'm looking forward to it. We've got the week together and I'm going to learn a lot and hopefully we'll raise a lot.
The team will also, among other places, visit the maternity block of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, which the Miss Ghana Foundation is raising funds to renovate. CEO of Exclusive Events Ghana, Ina Mariam Party, runs us through some of the activities lined up for the week visit.
We'll also use the opportunity to try and locate or close the deal on acquiring land to be able to build a community hospital for them. So these are the projects under health, which the Miss World organization is happy and passionate about working with the Miss Ghana Foundation. And then we'll come down to Accra. Of course, we'll get to pay Ketskol and a president, and then we'll come down to Accra to have a charity ball where you heard her. Miss World would play the violin. She's got a beautiful voice.
And elated Miss World 2012, Wenjia Zhu summed up her joy to be in Ghana in music.
Okay, so Grammy Award-winning gospel musician Kirk Franklin says he can't just wait to kiss the ground that he believes he hails from and to celebrate with the people of Ghana the goodness of God. Kirk Franklin is scheduled to headline the 2013 edition of the prestigious gospel concert at Dome Praise on August. Okay, so quickly, some breaking news coming through. Joy News has learnt of a fire outbreak behind the Cocoa Marketing Board in Accra, adjacent to the railway station. Now we're joined on the line now by Benis Abu Beidu. Hello, good evening to you, Benis.
Yeah, hello. Good day.
Yeah, Benis, what can you tell us about this development?
Okay, right now about 3 fire services arrived, but they are having difficulty getting into the place because the buildings are not well structured. But the police have also arrived and they're really trying their best. And at the moment, people are taking their belongings out of the place, and it's really a very bad situation. The fire is spreading really fast.
Has there been any casualty?
Well, not any I've heard of, no.
All right, thank you very much. Ben is there, but Joy News will follow up on this breaking news and bring you all the updates. But that's it for this bulletin. But our top stories for tonight. President Mahama promises to restructure GYEEDA to be more efficient as 5-member committee confirms massive rot uncovered by Joy FM investigations. New Patriotic Party takes on government over its decision to impose a tax on condoms, describing the move as the most unfortunate decision ever taken. All die be die mantra sparks debate in Parliament today. Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority warns tax defaulters they will not enjoy any amnesty after September this year. Second-hand tire dealers appeal to government to reconsider ban, which comes into force in September this year. My name is Gifty Andrew Apia. Many thanks for your time. To have a good evening.